The Middle East Institute at Georgia State University presents Arabic Grammar Unpacked. In this lesson, we will be discussing what's called al-Mudhara' al-Mansub, the present subjunctive. And we find this in al-Kitaab when Khalid begins to make one verb subordinate to another. He says, Aradtu an adkhula fi kulliyat al-adab. I wanted to enter into the College of Literature. What he's really saying is, I wanted that I enter into the College of Literatures. And this is how this particular bit of the present tense works. We have a conjunction, an, and then a verb which is subordinate to it, an adkhula, that I enter. We can say, أحب أن أجلس في الفرندا. I like to sit on the veranda, or rather, I like that I sit on the veranda. We can also use this with the verb istata, to be able to. We could say, هل تستطيع أن تفهم هذه الجملة? Notice that the first verb is the main verb in each case. It has the dhamma on the end that indicates that it's part of the Muladhara marfu', the present indicative, which we studied in the last video. But the second verb in each case has a fatha on the end, and that's what marks it as a slightly different form of the present tense, the Muladhara mansub, or present subjunctive. And that is what we will be discussing in this lesson. We can also say with an impersonal verb, لا يمكنني أن أعمل هذا المساء. It is not possible for me that I work this evening, or I can't work this evening. When we have a verb, it's given to us in its 5 forms. Amila al-maldi, the past or perfect tense. Ya'malu al-mudhara', here the mudhara' marfu', the present indicative, the one we learned in the last video. The present tense or imperfect tense, meaning incomplete, not flawed. Al-amal, the gerund or masdar or verbal noun, the act of doing that particular thing. Amil, the ism fa'il or active participle, the person or object who performs that action. And ma'mul, the ism al-maf'ul or passive participle, the person or object who has had that action done to them. In this lesson, we will be studying al-mudhara', the present or imperfect tense. It's given to us with the dhamma on the end, indicating that it's the present indicative, the first version of the present tense. Here, however, what we'll be studying is al-Mudhara' al-Mansub, the second version of the present tense, which is slightly different and is used in slightly different circumstances. The third version of the present tense is called al-Mudhara' al-Majzum, the present jussive, and it will be the subject of a later video. When we conjugate the Mudhara' Mansub, I've placed it over here after the conjunction en, because you never see the Mudhara' Mansub by itself. You always see it as subordinate to a conjunction or another particle. So by putting an ya'mala up here, I've made it so that we remember that it always comes after something else. So we can look at the conjugation, and it's going to look almost exactly the same as the conjugation of the present indicative. This is one of the things that makes studying basic Arabic rather frustrating. These are all too similar to be easily told apart. The only difference in the ana form between the present indicative and the present subjunctive is that we have a fatha at the end of the verb rather than a dhamma. The same is true for the anta form. But for the anti form, what happens is that we lose the noon on its suffix. Rather than saying ta'malina, we say ta'mali instead. This is very frustrating for intermediate and beginning students to learn. Huwa ya'mala, again with the fatha instead of the dhamma. Hiya ta'mala, again with the fatha instead of the dhamma. For the dual forms, what happens is we lose their noon. And just because the verb amila happens to end with lem, we get the lem alif character. If it ended with another letter, we'd simply get alif by itself. Nahnu doesn't look any different, again, except for the fatha rather than the dhamma. For antum, we lose the noon at the end of the conjugation. But because of an old spelling rule from the Quran, which you may recognize from the hum conjugation in the past tense, we have to add silent alif. So this is pronounced ta'malu. It looks like it's ta'malwa, but it's not. It's ta'malu. The antunna form, the human, female, plural you, doesn't change. The hum form changes in the same way the antum form changes. We lose the noon at the end of ya'malun, and we have ya'malu with a silent alif. The hunna form doesn't change. So you could take a screenshot here and save this for your files, or print it out and put it in your notebook. Or, if you'd like, you can replace it with the dual and female human plural forms grayed out, because al-Kitaab doesn't pay a great deal of attention to them. Now, using the Muladhara mansub is actually pretty simple, because there's really only 3 places where we use it. The first, and by far the most common one, is after the conjunction en. And en subordinates one verb to another. We most often see it with verbs like want, must, could, might, can, and so forth. So uridu, that's the regular present tense because it ends in dhamma. Uridu an afhama hada ad-dars. I want that I understand this lesson. In English, we'd probably say, I want to understand this lesson. But it's important to remember that Arabic does it a little bit differently. Uridu an afhama hada dars. Because the verb afham, I understand, comes after the conjunction en, we put it in the Muladhara mansub, which is why it ends with a fatha rather than a dhamma. Or we can ask a question. Hal tuhibbu an ta'kula fi dhalik al-matham? Do you like that you eat in that restaurant? Or do you like to eat in that restaurant? Again, simply by virtue of the fact that it follows the conjugation en, the verb ta'kul is in the Muladhara mansub, the present subjunctive, rather than the Muladhara marfu, the present indicative, like the verb tuhibbu is. And you can tell by the fact that it has fatha rather than dhamma on the end. Although in point of fact, most Arabs don't really bother to pronounce that final vowel on the ends of the verbs. And so it's a little bit difficult to hear a native speaker saying it most of the time unless they're speaking very carefully. We can ask a negative question. Alla tuhibbina an ta'kuli hunaka ya Zahra? Hey, Zahra, don't you like to eat there? In this case, the first verb, tuhibbina, since we're talking to a woman, has the ina suffix, but the second verb, because it's subordinate to the conjunction en, it loses its noon, and we just have the e suffix. This is something that's very frustrating for non-native speakers to learn to do quickly and well. So practice it. Alla tuhibbina an ta'kuli hunaka ya Zahra? Don't you like to eat there, Zahra? If we look at the particle Allah, we saw it in the previous lesson as being hal plus la. Don't you like to eat there, Zahra? But another place where we'll see the exact same word that has a different meaning is if we're asking someone if they don't like to do something or don't want to do something. So here we have Uridukum alla tadrusu fil maktaba hadha al-masa. I want you all that you don't study in the library this evening, or I want you not to study in the library this evening. Here, Allah is an plus la. So sometimes the same word will be a contraction of 2 different words. So in the first example, we have alla tuhibbin, don't you like? And in the second example, we have uridukum alla tadrusu, I want you not to study. So be very careful about this and pay attention to it, because that same set of letters can mean 2 different things in 2 different circumstances. And it's one of the many places where Arabic can be difficult and confusing for non-native speakers to learn. Another instance in which we can use the Muladhara mansub is after what we call impersonal expressions. Min al-mumkin an nadrusa fil maktaba. Min al-mumkin means it is possible. The min is idiomatic. Usually min means from or among. But here it's just a way of giving you a set expression, an impersonal expression. Min al-mumkin an nadrusa fil maktaba. It is possible that we study in the library, or something in English like we might study in the library, or we could study in the library. Another very common one of these expressions is min al-lazimi, which means it is necessary. So min al-lazimi an nadrusa kathiran lin-najah. It is necessary that we study a lot in order to succeed, or we must study a lot in order to succeed. There are lots and lots and lots of these min al something an expressions, and they can really expand your vocabulary, and we'll explore them in a later lesson. We can negate these expressions by using laysa, not la. La negates a verb. These are impersonal expressions. We negate them with laysa. So laysa min al-lazim an nadrusa fi dhalika saf. It is not necessary that we study in that class, or we don't have to study in that class. We put it in the past tense by using kana by itself. Again, the laysa and the kana are not going to be conjugated for who is doing the studying. They're going to be conjugated for huwa in order to negate the impersonal expression. So kana min al-mumkin an nadrusa hunaka laylat ams is it was possible that we study there last night, or we could have studied there last night. So be careful with these expressions. They're impersonal. Their subject is huwa, not whoever their subject would be in English. They're very useful, and we'll explore them in a later lesson. Another place in which we use the Muladhara mansub is after the particle len. Len means won't, and it negates the future. But what we don't use is the future tense when we negate it. Len negates the future all by itself. So, len a'mala laylat al-ghad. I won't work tomorrow night. There's no sa in there for the future tense. The len takes care of it for us, and we put it in the Muladhara mansub, whereas the regular future tense would use the Muladhara marfu'. If we said I will work, we'd say sa'a'malu laylat al-ghad. Lan tadrusu kathiran fi dhalika saf. You all won't study a lot in that class. Again, we use the Muladhara mansub, so the noon is missing on tadrusu. لماذا لن تحضروا عرس أختهم? Why won't they attend their sister's wedding? I have no idea why, but it's a good example of grammar. لن يحضروا, instead of يحضرون, we say يحضروا. Whereas if we'd use the regular present tense and these people acted properly, it would be سيحضرون with the noon, because after the regular present tense we use the Muladhara marfu', the present indicative, rather than the Muladhara mansub, the present subjunctive that we use after len. So len يحضروا, they will not attend, but سيحضرون, they will attend. That can be confusing, and it's worth taking careful notes on. Another place that we use the Muladhara mansub is after the preposition li, and this gives us in order to. So I can say darastu kathiran li anjaha fi dhalika saf. I studied a lot in order to succeed. We're really saying in order that I succeed in that class. So here we've placed the preposition li before the verb anjah, and place the verb anjah in the Muladhara mansub by adding fatha at the end. We can say yusafiruna liyahduru ars ukhtihim. They are traveling in order that they attend, or in English, in order to attend their sister's wedding. So here we've just placed the preposition li on the beginning of the conjugated verb in the Muladhara mansub. It's a little easier to see because we don't have the alif bihamza prefix turning it into the lam alif character. So li yahduru, in order that they attend, or in English, in order to attend their sister's wedding. We can say tadhhabu Zohra ila al-maktaba li tadrusa. So in the first instance, the verb is in the Muladhara marfu', the regular present tense, because it's what Zohra's doing. But why is she doing that? Li tadrusa, in order that she studies, or in order to study. This verb is in the Muladhara mansub. It's just a question of where you use the verb in the sentence and after what particle that enables you to use the Muladhara mansub, or forces you to use the Muladhara mansub. So again, the Muladhara mansub, the present subjunctive, is used in 3 instances in Arabic. It always is subordinate to something else. We can put it after the conjunction an, as in uridu an adrusa. We can put it after the particle len in order to negate the future. Len adrusa, I will not study. Or we can put it after the preposition li in order to indicate in order to. Darastu kathiran li anjaha fi dhalika saf. I studied a lot in order to succeed in that class. So after an, after len, and after li, we have to use this slightly modified version of the present tense, because in Arabic that verb is subordinate to something else. And that's the second of the 3 versions of the present tense, the Muladhara mansub, or present subjunctive.